Greetings, technology enthusiasts. I am Chandrahas and I am delighted to be here with you representing CyberBrainer. Do you not believe that the technology sector is advancing at an unprecedented rate, making this an opportune moment to acquire the skills that will facilitate your progress? With CyberBrainer, we are empowering you to take control of your own future. At CyberBrainer, we do not merely impart your interests. We assert that information is power, yet it is the application of knowledge that distinguishes you. Our courses are meant to equip you with essential skills, whether you are pursuing data science, understanding artificial intelligence, or delving into cybersecurity. Let us commence the session and seize the future today. Thank you.
Here we have more options with the data extract activity. That's what we're going to explore. Let's start. Let me drag and drop this again, and I'll click on choose button and I'll click on data extract activity. In the first example, the data extract activity, we had seen that how we can extract the data from the data extension and then we can push it to the FTP server. Right. First it will be pushed to the safe house and then we will be using the file transfer activity to transfer the file from safe house to the FTP server. Now we have another extract type that we are going to use now. That is a tracking extract. Tracking extract means that whenever we make the email send right, whenever we send the email, the tracking data is generated right. Now the tracking data that is generated, we can consume or we can visualize from different places. Let's say whenever the email is sent, the first place where you can go is you can go to email, Studio Tracking Sense, and in the tracking tab you can check for this particular email what is the open rate, click rate and things like that, right? Also how you can access the tracking data, you can also build the report, right? You can go to the analytics builder and from there you can, let's say, generate a accounts and summary report. And from there also you can check that for a particular email message, for a particular email send, what is the open rate, click rate and things like that, right? Now the another thing is, let's say we have this campaign which is running and what we want to do, that whatever the tracking data that is generated, we want to visualize this data in a different visualization tool, let's say Tableau or any other visualization tool, right? For that what we need to do, we need to generate the data first and then we need to save the file, tracking data file, in our FTP server. And from there the analysis system will pick up and that will be used for the visualization. Let's say if you want to look at the data or if you want to visualize the data within Marketing Cloud, then we have two options, right? Either we can go manually check in the email tracking sense inside the email studio. Otherwise, we can build the report and through the analytics builder. In this activity, we are going to learn how we can, extract the tracking data for the email sense, and then that data will be pushed to the FTP server. This activity, I mean with the extract type tracking stat, what it will do? It will basically create a zip file which will contain the different type of tracking information. It will create, let's say, let me start and then I'll show you the configuration part. We can give a name, let's say tracking, let's say email tracking information. Here we have to give a name of the file. We can give, let's say, email tracking information. And we can also use this wildcard specifiers. And we have to remember one thing, the extension of this file would be zip. This is what you have to keep in mind, that whenever you are using the data extract activity with extract type as tracking extract, then the file name that you would give it should have a speaker. We have to keep this extension and zip, and then we can move forward to the next step. Now here we have to fill some of the information. The first thing is that the duration. The tracking data could be of last 6 months, last 3 months, last 1 day, right? Here we can go maximum up to 90 days. Let's say we want to generate the tracking data or we want to extract the tracking data for last 30 days. Imagine this in a way that you have a database, right? In the Salesforce database, we have all this tracking information stored. Now what we want to do? We want to share this data with somebody else. Let's say with the visualization team, that they can use this data and they can create this visualization dashboard reports, maybe some charts, bar graphs and things like that. How do you think? Forget about automation, forget about Marketing Cloud. And just answer me this question, that you have a database in which you have all these tables where this tracking information is stored. Now the team does not have access to the Salesforce database. And you want to share this data with them that they can generate the reports and dashboards out of it. How would you be able to do it? I mean, what are the different ways that you can think of that you can share the data with them? Just imagine that you have one database, right? I mean one table, one database, right? It's Marketing Cloud, right? You have this data. Let's do this way that you have the data in data extensions and you want to share this data with the team, right? Now we don't have any fancy LFT, nothing like that. How would you be able to do it? What we will do? We will basically create a file, right? In that file, we will store the data and that file we will be sharing with the team, right? Right now, what is happening is when you will create the file from, let's say if I'll create a new Excel file, right? I'll have to give some name if I want to save the file. I'll be giving some name. Similarly, when a file is being created by the system has to save the file with some name, right? This is the name of the file. This is the name of the file that would be created by the system, that would be generated by the system. And this file will contain all the tracking information. Just imagine that this is some, a zip file, and inside the zip file, we will be having all the tracking information. Now I'll go click on next button. Now the next question is that for how long? I mean the duration of the tracking data that we want to store in this file. It could be, let's say, last 30 days of tracking data that I want to store or last 24 hours. Here I have chosen last 30 days of data that I want to store in my tracking in my zip file. Now zip file is basically a compressed file, right? Now zip file would contain many individual files. Now these individual CSV files will contain respective type of tracking information. Let's say this whatever the checkboxes that we have checked over here. Let me uncheck all these first. Whenever we check any checkbox, what does it mean? That zip file will include one CSV file which will contain the click information. That for, let's say, what are the different clicks that we have got. Apart from that, I mean all the click information, like who clicked on the link, when the link was clicked, what was the email. I think the email name will not be included, but date and time and the URL and the job ID. All this information will be there in that CSV file. Now, if I check this checkbox as well, then what will happen? That zip file will contain one more CSV file which will contain about the open information, like when the email was opened, who opened the email, date and time, and things like that. Here we can basically select all those type of tracking information that we want to extract. and we want to keep in the zip file. This to information is necessary over here. And then we can go to here what we are doing, we are basically extracting the clicks, we are extracting opens, and here we are extracting not sent. Now, what is this not sent? Not sent means the emails that could not be sent to the customer. Now, what is the reason? Let's say we have 100 subscribers in a target date extension and we try to send the email. Out of 100 subscribers, let's say only 95 subscribers receive the email and 5 subscribers do not receive the email. We would find these 5 records in this not sent tracking extract. Now, what are these 5 records? There could be a chance that these subscribers may be unsubscribed from the email communication and Marketing Cloud excluded them. There could be a chance that these subscribers' status is held, and that is why the Marketing Cloud excluded these subscribers, right? Extract not sent CSV file will contain all those records that were excluded from the email sent. We look at this data, when we will import it. For now, we will keep this thing. Click on Next, click on Finish. Now, when I will run this activity, what will happen in the backend? The system will basically create one file. Now, what would be the name of the file that we have given, right? Now that file will be placed on the safe house by the system. Now again, we have to basically have another file transfer activity that will move the file from the safe house location to the FTP server. If you want to visualize or if you want to check the tracking data within the Marketing Cloud, because we have the access to Marketing Cloud, what you can do? You can go to the email tracking sense and look at the data, right? But let's say if you want to transfer this data to another system where we can visualize or where we can build the reports and dashboards using this data. There we can use the tracking stack. We will get the entire Marketing Cloud data like what all clicks what all. It will not be based on the individual email sends, but will be based on the entire account. Now I'll choose this file. I'll configure this file concept activity to move the file from safe house location to the FTP server. I'll click on this new transfer. Move email tracking info to FTP. Now this is the option that I'll be choosing, and then I'll click on next button. This is the name of the file, right? That will be placed in the in the safe house location. This is the file that we want the system to pick up and what would be the destination. We can choose this one or import folder in the FTP server. And then we can click on next and click on finish. What will happen when I will run this activity? It will generate one zip file. And then that zip file will be moved to the FTP server using the file transfer activity. I'll save the changes in the automation and click on run once. And then click on run. And then click on run. It might take a few seconds to start the automation. I'll wait for a few seconds. Meanwhile, let me show you that. The import file activity that we don't have any zip file as of now. By the name this thing. Email tracking info. Actually, we don't have any zip file over here, right? As you can see. what would we be doing? We would be creating the CSV file, and then we'll be transferring this file to this location. Let me cancel this one. And let's see if this term, the first activity is completed. It has basically placed the file on the safe house location. Now the second activity is moving the file from safe house location to the FTP server. Let's see if the file has been done. Extract and then move to the FTP server or not. This is the file email tracking info, 9th of February. This is the file that we generated, right? This is the name that we have given over there, and the system has created this file. Now what does this file contain? Can you tell me what this zip file contains? We have different type of tracking information, right? We have open bounce plate. What all files it contains? We had checked the checkboxes, right? It basically contains three different type of CSV file. One CSV file will contain the open data. The other CSV file will contain the notes and data. And the third CSV file will contain the collect data, right? Now what we need to do, since it is a zip file and we are not able to see the individual files, right? We will unzip this file. This is a file that we would be unzipping. And then after unzip, we will have all the files in the same folder. Let's do that. How we can do unzip? We'll be using the file transfer activity again to unzip the file. Let me just drag and drop it over here and click on choose button. We'll give a name. Just a sec. Email tracking. Zip. Here we have two options. This is the option that we have seen. With this option, what we can do? We can move a file from safe house location to the FTP server, but that's something we don't want to do. What we want to do? We want to unzip a file. And then we want to extract the files within it, right? We'll be using this option, that is manage file. And then we'll click on the next button. It is asking that what is the file name that you want to unzip. We'll be using, this is the file name, right? Email tracking info, year, month and day, and then .zip. This is the file name. Now where the system will find this file, like where it is located. It is located inside this folder, right? Import folder. Now what we want to do? We want to unzip the file. We'll, check this checkbox that we want to unzip the file. And then we'll click on the next button and click on finish. Right now we have the file which is placed on the FTP server inside the import folder, which is my zip file, and I want to unzip the file. I am using this activity to unzip the file. I'll save the changes in the automation. And if I want to run this, what I would do, I'll click on run once. Select the activity that I want to run and click on run button. Here you can see like what all activities that I am trying to run. What all activities will be excluded and will not run. And this is the notification setting. In case, let's say it is taking a lot of time, right? And we don't have that time. What we can do? We can enter the email address over here. If there is any error or something like that, we will receive the notification. And if we get the success, then also we will get the notification. We can put the email address over here for the email notification. Now we can click on Run Now button. It has started running. We'll just wait for a few more seconds. And then once it is completed, then we'll be able to see that the file has unset. It is completed. Now I'm going to use again this activity to see. Click on Page for definition. Click on Next button. And then here we'll be able to see these files. You can see ClickSys. This is the file that was there inside the zip file. And then we have not sensesf. And then we have OpenSesf. Now these three CSV files contains the respective data like click data, not send data, and the open tracking data. Let's say we are sending the email from Marketing Cloud for different campaign site. But in Marketing Cloud, we do not have the visualization capabilities. We cannot create graphs. We cannot create, the pie charts or maybe stack bars. And we cannot create, let's say, for each activity, right? We could have, let's say, 1 or 2 use cases. We talked about for the data extract we talked about this data extension extract type, right? For that. We talked about the use case that. Let's say they want to access the data from the Marketing Cloud, right? Maybe let's say we have the customer data in Marketing Cloud and the sales team or service team, they want to access the data that maybe they can follow up with the customers or maybe they can, use this data to call them or something like that, right? How we can share the data with them? We can, extract the data from the data extension and we can move it to the FTP and they can access it from there. For the tracking extract, it will be used for the visualization capabilities. Now let's talk about the import file. Let's click on Choose button. Now what we are going to do is that import file activity is used to import the data, right? As the name is saying, import data now, from where we are going to import the data from the FTP server and where we will be importing. In Marketing Cloud, we only have 2 data structure, right? One is list or the data extension. Either we can import the data into a list or the data extension, and from where we are importing. We are importing from the FTP server. Now in the FTP server, what we have the CSV files, right? We will be choosing one CSV file, and from there we will be importing the data into Marketing Cloud data extension. Now how this could be used, or like what could be the use cases? It can have like multiple use cases. Let's say we talked about this one, right? Let's say there's a sales team and they have some customer information, right? Now what we want to do? They will be basically placing the file in the FTP server. We have to import the data into Marketing Cloud to send the email communication to the customers. That's something we can do. Or let's say there's an offline channel. Let's say there's a mall, right? In the mall, what happened is we have generally offline campaigns, maybe awareness campaigns and something like that. there would be a person sitting in the mall and what he would be doing. Let's say whenever somebody you know visits over there, he captures that person information like mobile number, email address, right? Maybe it's awareness campaign. Let's say about. Let's say pollution or something like that, right? What he would be doing. Maybe he would be sharing his details like mobile number and email address and things like that because he's interested in this campaign, right? Or maybe a running campaign and things like that. Now that person who is, capturing all this detail and maybe, saving this in an Excel sheet, right? Now what we want to do, because we want to send the email communication to all these people. That person who is saving all this information in the Excel, let's say he has the access to the FTP server. Now he would be uploading the file in the FTP server. From there we will be importing the data into Marketing Cloud and then we'll be sending the communication. I mean, whatever the use case is. Whenever we want to import the data from the FTP server, we can use this import file activity. Let me duplicate the tab. We already have created one data extension where we will be importing the data. Let's look at the data extension first. In the tracking data, we have 3 files, right? That we have extracted, not sent. Click and open. This is one file that is not sent.csv. That is the file that we are going to import into Marketing Cloud. This is the data extension not send tracking stat. In this data extension, we'll be importing the data from that CSV file. For now, what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to delete all the data. It has 4 fields, send ID, event type, reason and subscriber key. And here we will be importing the data. What I can do, I can create a new input definition and I'll be using import not send data. If you want to send the email notification when the import completes, we can mention the email address over here. Otherwise, we can go to the next step. And here we have to basically choose the file that we want to import. This is my node sense. I can just copy and paste it over here. This is the file that I want to import. Now it is a comma delimited file. That is where comma and things like that. Now I can click on next button. Now the destination where I would be storing this data in Marketing Cloud. We have 2 option list and data extension. Since we are storing the data into the data extension, let's we have to choose the data extension where we will be storing this data. Not send tracking extract. And we'll click on the next button. Now next step we have is mapping. We will be having some fields in the CAC file, right? And we have some fields in our data extension. Which field from the CAC file will be mapped with which field in the data extension? That's what we have to do the mapping. we have three options, map by header row. यानी कि whatever the headings that we have in the CAC file, if it finds that same field in our data extension, then it will automatically be mapped. Map by ordinal means, 1, 2, 3, 4 like sequence where it will be mapped. Map manually means that we can map manually the fields. Since we have the same set of fields in our data extension and in the CAC file, we'll be going with this first option. And we have the detection that how we want to import the data. Add only means it will only add the records and it will not do anything else. Update means if it finds the matching record, then it will update the record in the data extension. Add an update that it will add the record. And let's say if we'll take the example of the customer information, or let's say we are taking the same example of the shopping mall, right? That person is basically uploading the Excel file in the FTP server and we're importing the data into our data extension. What we need to do? We need to basically send a welcome email that or maybe a confirmation email that you shared the email address with our offline awareness campaigns. And this is to inform you that that you would be receiving such more emails and things like that, right? If the person has already received the email, we don't want to send the email again, right? Now, in that case, let's say there could be a possibility that the same person has, given the information twice. And if you'll go with the add only option, then in that case, what will happen? That will have multiple records for the same person. Let's say today that the person has given the information to that camp, right? And again today that that person has come and then given the information again. In that case, if you'll go with the add only option, then it will keep adding the same person information again in the case. We don't want to do that. Update only. Update only will only work there where we don't want to add any new records, but we just want to update the existing data. Add and update means that if it finds the matching record in it, means if it finds the same person record, then it will update the information. Maybe there could be a possibility that the first or last name has changed for the same person. Maybe the location has changed or things like that, right? We can update the data. And if there is any new person who has enrolled or who has subscribed or who has registered, then we can add that. That option is suitable for our use case. Now the fourth one is overwrite. It will basically replace the data, but that's something we don't want to do, right? Every time the information is coming, we want to keep the old data as well, but also we want to add the new data. We can go ahead with the third option if you're going with the that use case. In our right now, whatever the option that we choose, it will not impact because we do not have any data and data extension right. We can also go ahead with the overwrite. Now click on the next button. Now here we have the summary. Everything looks correct. We can click on the finish button. Now when I run this import file activity, what will happen? That it will import the data from my node sense6 file and will dump the data into this data extension. Now I'll just save the changes to the automation and I'll click on run once button and click on run button and click on run now. What will happen? That it will import the data into. And the data extension right. Let it run. This is success. This is fully executed. Now we'll refresh the data extension to see if the records have been ingested or not. We'll come over here. As we can see that the 65 records that have been imported from that node, sim.node, send.cc file into the state extension. And here we can see that these are the records that were excluded by Marketing Cloud for some reason. We'll see that we have, while making the emails like these have been excluded in the last 30 days. And here we have the reason. We'll say invalid attribute value, missing required attributes, a domain exclusion and things like that. A list level opt-out. If somebody has unsubscribed, then it will show something like this. Now the file transfer activity. There is one more option that we're going to talk about. That is a little bit complicated, but I'll try my land best to explain this in the easiest to be possible. Let's create a new file transfer activity. First of all, let's understand the use case first, and then we'll see that how we can implement it through Marketing Cloud. The first use case is what we are doing, that we have, let's say, smart capture form right now. In the smart capture form, what we are doing, we are basically capturing the customer's feedback. Maybe they are utilizing our services or something like that, and we are capturing their feedback, that how did they like our service and things like that. Now, if they give a negative feedback, what we want to do, that we want to share this information with another team, and then maybe the another team maybe can call them or can do a follow up or things like that to understand their concerns, right? What we will doing, we'll be using the smart capture form, storing the data in a data extension, and then somehow we need to move this data from the data extension to the FP server, that the another team can pick up this data from the FP server, and they can call them, and then they can follow up with them about their issues. This is one scenario. Now in that case, now in this scenario, the data that we are sharing right to the FP server, now this is the confidential information, right? This is some the sensitive information, right? Now we don't want this information to be exposed or maybe misused by anybody else, right? Only the authorized person or only the intended recipient should only access this file, right? For that, what we can do, we can encrypt the file, right? We can do the encryption. We will be encrypting the file, and then the another person will be downloading. I mean, the intended recipient will be downloading the file, and then they will decrypt the file from their end, and then they will access the data. Now somebody who does not have the password, they will not be able to decrypt the file that we have uploaded, or we have basically moved to the FP server. This is one use case. How we will be implementing this in Marketing Cloud? When we transfer the file, let's say we are extracting the data from the data extension, we'll be placing the file on the safe house. And then here in the file transfer, we have one option to use the encryption. We have this option to encrypt the file. We can use these are two algorithm, PEEP and JP. We can use any of these, and then like whenever, let's say we have a lock, right, and we will be having a key that we can do the unlock or lock, right. In Marketing Cloud, we have two types of keys, public key and private key. Now public key will always be used to encrypt the file or encrypt the data. Now, how will you be creating this public key? You will have to come to the admin tab of the email studio, and then here we have something called key management. Now, when you go to the key management, you can create a public key. Public key will always be used to encrypt the file, and then private key will be used to decrypt the file, because anybody can lock it, right? But in order to decrypt something, we have to have a private key, right? And that is only for the intended recipient. Public means it is publicly available. Anybody can encrypt it. Let's say if you do not check this checkbox, then it will be a public key. If you check this checkbox, then it will be your private key. Now how? Like here it is written key and required, and we have to basically browse it and then upload one key file. Now how will we do? How we will be able to do that? There are many third-party softwares which are there on the internet. We can use any software and then we can generate a RESA key, any public and private key combination. What we will be doing? Let's say we are using third-party software. They will basically generate the key for us, and then here we can browse. We can basically upload that key to this place. Now, this will basically make my public key. Here we have many public keys already created. Let's say SFM public key. We can use any key and then we can encrypt the file. Now this encrypted file will be placed on the FPEP server. The another team will download the file from there, and the third party software that we would be using, it will generate two keys, right? Public and private key. Public key will be uploading over here to encrypt the file, and that private key will be with the intended recipient. That private key that person will use to decrypt the file. Understand this public and private key as a password, right? That password is, let's say, with me and with you as well, right? I can use that password to encrypt this something, and then you can also use that password to decrypt the file. That is a scenario number one. Let's say we have this team, right, to whom we are sharing this file, right, to whom we are maybe a service team, right, to whom we will be sharing this information. Using the third party software, we will be generating this public and private key, right? Public key will be uploading to Marketing Cloud to encrypt the file and that private key. We can share it, over the email or maybe over the chat with the service team. Now they have this private key. They can use that private key to decrypt the file. This file will be encrypted. Now this is a scenario number one, in which we see that if you want to share the file with, let's say, service team, and we want to encrypt the time, what we will be doing, we will be using the public key, encrypt the file, and then move the file to the FPEP server. They will be downloading the file and decrypt the file using the private key. This is scenario number one. Now if we will reverse the scenario the other way around, let's say there's a service team and they have some information, or let's say sales team, they have some information, the sensitive information they want to share with Marketing Cloud. What they will be doing? They will be, let's say, encrypting the file. When they will encrypt the file, they will need the public key. Let's say they will have the public key and they will be encrypting the file. Now what we need? We need to decrypt the file first, and then we'll be importing the data into Marketing Cloud. How do we import the data into Marketing Cloud? That's something we already have seen, but that will only work if we have a plain file, right, without any encryption. But right now what is happening is that the another team, sales team, has uploaded a file which is encrypted. First we have to decrypt the file, and then we can use the import file activity to import the data. In the file transfer option, we have an option to decrypt the file. Here we can give the name of the file that needs to be decrypted, and here we can get the source file location. like what is the location where this file is kept. And here we need to choose one option. Let's say one would decrypt a file. I'll click on decrypt file, and then here I need to choose a private key, that private key that will be used to decrypt the file. And then we can click on next, next, and then if you run this activity, it will find that file inside this location and then it will decrypt that file. After that, we can import that data into marketing product. Now here we don't have any private key. The reason being is that the public and private key generation transaction that we do through the third party software is mostly done by the paid softwares. That is why we have not generated any private key and we have not uploaded over here. But let's say if you are working for a client and if we have a public and private key combination, then we can generate the private key and then we can basically upload the private key over here. Now the public key would be with the sales team, right? And they would be using the public key to encrypt the file and then they will be uploading the file on the web server. From there, we have to import that into Marketing Cloud. What it will be doing, we will be basically decrypting the file first and then importing the return to Marketing Cloud. I mean, for the first time, it could be a little bit intimidating and confusing, but if you will think about it once again, then you will be able to visualize things like what's all that is happening. In the data extract, we have basically talked about two extract type. One is data extension extract and the tracking extract. In the file transfer also, we have talked about a feature. One is that we can manage the file. How we can manage the file? Either we can, decrypt the file or we can also unzip the file using the file transfer activity. And then the feature that we can use is to move the file from safe house to the FTP server. And in the import file activity, we have seen that how we can import the data from the FTP server to a Marketing Cloud. Now, the next activity we're going to talk about is a filter activity. We already have seen the filter data extension, right? What is the filter data extension? Filter data extension basically helps us to filter the records from our standard data extension, and based on some criteria we can filter and we can put all the records in the filter data extension. But we have one limitation over there. The limitation is that, let's say what we want to do, let's say we have a master data extension, and in that master data extension we have the customers from different cities, let's say Delhi, Bangalore, Hyderabad, and from different cities. Now the filter data extension we have basically created which will basically contain all the customers. Let's say we have different filter data extension. One data extension will basically pull all the customers who are in, let's say, Delhi. The another filter data extension will pull the records who are, let's say, from Bangalore, right, and forth. Now, let's say if we added the data or if we delete the data from the master data extension, the filter data extension will not take these changes automatically. You understand my point? Let's say if we go to the data extension, this is my filter data extension right now. If I make any changes to the source data extension, this is my source data extension, right? If I'll delete some of the reports or add some of the records, these changes will not be basically taken up by this data extension automatically. For that, what we need to do, we need to manually refresh the jet extension, and now it will basically again check for all the records where this condition is meeting. For where this condition is where this condition is met, and then it will pull the records and then it will store that into this filter data extension. Right now what we can do, we can do the same thing. I mean, we don't have to refresh it manually, but we can use this filter activity, which will basically run this. You can run this, filter again and again. Every time when we run the automation, it will pull the records from the source data extension based on the criteria and put that into the filter data extension. Now for that, let's say use case could be the same one. Let's say we have mastered extension right and every day. Let's say we are going to send the emails to the customers based on their city. Maybe about the weather, or maybe we want to target the different customers based on their city. What you would be doing, because every time we have to see what all records that we have been added to the master extension or have been deleted and things like that, right? And then it will take the data from the, let's say we have the series of filter activities over here and we run the entire automation. It will basically get the latest data from the source data extension, put that into the filtered data extension, and will send the email to the customers. Let's see the configuration first. We'll click on choose button and we'll click on and we'll create a new filter activity. Here we basically have to choose a data filter. The data filter is basically the criteria or the condition that we will be applying on the data extension. We have to create a data filter first. I think we already have created a filter. Let's say this one right age criteria filter and it is on my source. Data extension is this one. Oh, let's say what I want to do is, but I think here we will not be having any records. Let me show you another one. Let's say based on city. If I want to do it here, I think would be having a city field, right? Let's say I want to create a data filter that will basically filter all the records where cities is equals to, let's say, Delhi. I'll be creating a data filter. First, I'll click on create button and it would be based on data extension. Click on and I'll be choosing a data extension over here to build the criteria, and the criteria would be where city is equals to, let's say, Delhi. And I'll be saving this. Let's say Delhi customers here, and now click on save button. I'll create the data filter. Data filter contains the criteria. Now I'll be going to the automation studio and here I'll have to basically refresh this. Let me choose it again, create new filter, activity filter, daily customers. this is my data filter that we have just created, right? Delhi customer 010. And I'll be clicking on next button. What it will be doing that? It will basically. Right now, we don't have any filter extension, right? We only have the data filter, which is the criteria. It will automatically create the filter data extension. We just have to give the name of the data extension and it will automatically create the filter data extension for us. We are giving name, let's say daily customers D, and then I'll click on next button, and then we will have a summary, and then we can click on finish button. Right now, what all we have done? We have configured the activity and we also have created the data filter. Right now, when I'll run this activity, it will automatically create a filter data extension for me, and it will also run the criteria, and based on that criteria, it will save the filtered records in the filter data extension. Let me click on run once and run this filter now. Click on run button. Let's say every time. Let's say this automation is scheduled to run on a daily basis. Every day it will basically find out all the records, all the customers were in Delhi, and then it will automatically send the email to those customers, right? We don't need to do anything, like we don't have to refresh the data extension manually every time we want to send the email to customers. The automation will take care of it. Also, every day it will run the filtered data extension and will keep the latest data. Let's go to this data extension automation, this folder. Here we have this data extension, right? Daily customer 010, and here we can see one record. I think the automation must have been executed. It is already executed. We can see over here this customer. Now let's say if I delete this record from the source data extension, will that affect the filter data extension? Currently, it will not affect because the filter data extension does not have the capability to detect the changes that are being made to the source data extension. But when we run the automation, it will basically again, run that criterion. Based on that criteria, it will pull the records from the source data extension. Please do like, share and subscribe to our channel.